welcome. You're watching India Global. I'm Gaurie Dwivedi. Let's take a quick look at the headlines. Israel-Iran trade bobs at UNSC meeting. Israel urges Tehran be punished. Iran hits back. Iran claims right to self-defense at UNSC. UNSC chief says Middle East on the brink. And US-UK condemn Iran attack on Israel. Israel vows to exact a price from Iran. Israel says will respond when time is right. NDTV speaks to Israel envoy to India. NDTV exclusive with Naor Gilon will hit back at a time of our choosing. Former US President Donald Trump set to face criminal trial. Donald Trump on trial over alleged hush money. First former US president to face criminal charges. And at least 19 killed in Indonesia's landslides. Indonesia's Sulawesi Islands hit by landslides. The big story that we are tracking continues to be the Iran-Israel tensions. A day after Iran struck Israel in response to its attack on the Iranian consulate in Syria earlier this month, the United Nations Security Council held an emergency meeting to discuss the escalation in West Asia. Israeli Ambassador Gilad Erdan claimed Iran's attack crossed every line and that Israel reserves the right to retaliate against it. The Iranian ambassador, meanwhile, Sayed Irvani, has stated that Iran's attack on Israel was necessary and proportionate and within Tel Aviv's right to self-defense. Both the US and UK, meanwhile, have condemned Iran's attack and urged members to call on Tehran and its partners and proxies to stop their attacks on Israel. The UK called on all parties to refrain from any actions that could further escalate tensions in this region. The emergency meeting ended without any action by the United Nations Security Council. All right, to discuss this in greater detail and to understand what's really the situation on ground, we're joined by Linda Gradstein, a correspondent of Voice of America, joining us live from Jerusalem. Linda, thanks so much for taking out the time to speak to us and give us a sense of what's really the situation right now on ground.
Sure. So the question is, what will the Israeli response be? And during the Iranian attack on Israel, which was unprecedented, it was the first time that Iran directly attacked Israel. More than 300 missiles, including very large cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, which had they landed, could have caused quite a lot of loss of life. And all of the missiles were shot down either by Israel or the United States, Jordan, other countries. So Israel at the time canceled school and camps and all of those things, said that, no large gatherings of people, sort of braced for a broader, expansive war. But it seems now that Israel is backing away from that because last night at midnight it canceled those restrictions. And so school trips are going ahead as planned. It's the beginning of the Passover holiday of 2.5 weeks. And there's definitely a sense that the tension has gone down significantly. Now, that doesn't mean that Israel won't respond, but it seems that it won't be an immediate response and it won't be a response of an attack directly on Iran. It could be a cyber attack, which are going on anyway. Israel and Iran are always exchanging cyber attacks. It could be something else, but right now things have kind of calmed down.
So things right now seem to be calm, given that the international community has also called on both sides to not escalate this. But the fact is, this isn't over because both sides exchanged a war of words, in fact, at the UNSC. Both called that there should be sanctions on the other. So what's your sense right now on the ground that the next couple of weeks they could see a fair bit of tensions, or do you think there could be another plan of action that the Israeli government may have in mind?
I think that Israel, there could be tensions, but I think that Israel does not want to clash with the international community. It's already clashed so much over Gaza. And I think that, Israel still sees the ongoing war in Gaza, which has now been going on for more than 6 months, and trying to eradicate Hamas, which, by the way, is a proxy of Iran. I think it's important to say, as is Hezbollah, in South Lebanon, which has also been fighting with Israel. But I think Israel sees those conflicts as more important to it than what's going on with Iran. And the United States has made it very clear, both publicly and privately, that it does not want to see an Israeli response. It does not want this to expand. Now, Iran says its action was only retaliation for an alleged Israeli strike that killed 7 members of the Revolutionary Guards, including the most senior general in Damascus. And Iran said that as far as it's concerned, this is now over. So the question is, what kind of response Israel will have? Some on the hard line in Israel, some of the hardline members of the government are calling for a strong response, saying Israel, if it doesn't do anything, it will lose its deterrence in the region. But apparently, according to Israeli press reports, Netanyahu has said that at least right now, he's not planning an attack on Iran. He doesn't want a war with Iran when he already is involved in a war with Hamas in Gaza and something just short of a war with Hezbollah.
Absolutely. Thanks much, Linda, for breaking that down for us. As Linda pointed out, the next couple of weeks would continue to be seeing Middle East remain under tension, given that this isn't over. Let's get an important voice on this developing story. Israeli ambassador to India, Naor Gilon, has spoken exclusively to my colleague Umar Shankar Singh on the next possible steps that Israel could take. Gilon says that Israel will decide when, where and how it will respond to Iran's offensive. Listen in.
Thank you for joining NDTV, Ambassador. IRGC said the attack was aimed at a specific target. What was their so-called specific target, and have they really achieved that?
I don't know what the targets were. We know that they shot 350 rockets, cruise missiles and UAVs, carrying about 60 tons of explosives towards Israel. We were able to intercept 99% of the incoming projectiles, and very few missiles came in and hit Army base, Air Force base in the southern part of Israel, but the base was okay and continued functioning. Unfortunately, there was one girl, 7-year-old Muslim Bedouin from the Negev, from the south of Israel, who was severely wounded, and we are praying for her speedy recovery.
Iran has said that it has completed its counterattack and operation is over now. But if Israel attacks again, it will retaliate in a big way. Following the attack, Israeli PM Benjamin Netanyahu vowed that together we will win. So what he is trying to say?
So we have to see the perspective of time. What happened is, for years, Iran is fighting Israel by proxy. It didn't start now, and this firing directly from Iran to Israel is a further new escalation for the first time ever. It cannot remain unanswered. We were lucky to prevent huge effect and damage that they hoped to cause, because they did it, they thought well the shooting at Israel, because they shot 3 different tools, and within the rockets even surface to surface, different kinds, and timed it to challenge together the Israeli defense systems. That if the Iranians now think that they have a free card in engaging Israel every time or threatening Israel, we have to make clear to them that this is unacceptable, and our abilities to retaliate are reasonable.
You people are going to attack Iran in a big manner?
I don't know. We will leave. I think it will be in a way proportional to the way we see the Iranian attack, but we will leave how, when, where to the people who decide in Israel. Iranians can be waiting now and expecting our reaction. It will come when we see fit.
US is maintaining its position that it will keep supporting Israel, but at the same time, it is also advising Israel not to go for any offensive against Iran. US has also said it will not take a part in any counter-offensive against Iran. Would Israel follow US advice, or would act on its own?
What Biden says is US will not be part of a retaliation to Iran. We respect the American partners, what they did now also with creating partnerships in order to help prevent the shooting, and their support to Israel is very valuable to us. The friendship of the US, I served twice in the US, is is incredibly important for us. At the same time, you know, at the end of the day, the responsibility for the well-being of the Israeli population is on Israel and its government, and the government will do whatever they find fit in order to protect the population.
What Iran has done, it claims that it has done in retaliation of Israeli attack on its consulate in Damascus, which killed IRGC former commander. Iran is also saying that Israel has violated international law by attacking consulate, but Israel has neither confirmed nor denied it involvement in Damascus attack, and why it so?
When we speak about harming Iran is a leader, we don't have to assume responsibility for anything. I mean, ambiguity is sometimes good. If it's us or not us, it's for others to decide, to think. But I would ask also, why are 7 Revolutionary Guards officers in charge of making our region unstable, shipping weapons and training and financing terror organizations around the region are there in that place? That's a good question for people to ask themselves.
Thank you, Ambassador, for joining NDTV.
Thank you very much.
The situation has been diffused right now. The region continues to remain tensed. Iran has the unwavering, Israel has the unwavering support of America and its allies. The US, UK, Canada, Australia and several others condemned the Iranian attack in the strongest terms. Though Israel has not taken responsibility of the attack on Iranian embassy in Syria earlier this month, Tel Aviv says it had to avenge that attack. Well, this has put the British Foreign Secretary David Cameron in a bit of a spot. Listen in to what he had to say in a television interview.
In many ways, this has been a double defeat for Iran. The attack was an almost total failure, and they've revealed to the world that they are the malign influence in the region prepared to do this.
What would Britain do if a hostile nation flattened one of our consulates?
Well, we would take the very strong action.
And Iran would say that that's what they did?
Well, what they did, as I said, was a massive attack.
All right, well, the motive, target and the ultimate objective of this entire offensive continues to remain in doubt. To discuss this in greater detail, Dr. Hasan Alhasan, Senior Fellow for the Middle East Policy at the International Institute for Strategic Studies, joins us live to discuss this in greater detail. Dr. Hasan, thanks much for taking out the time to speak to NDTV on this. My first question, sir, your reading of the situation right now. Israel has not taken responsibility for the attack, which Tel Aviv said it had to avenge. The situation right now has been diffused for the moment. How do you read the Middle East region right now?
Well, it's a dangerous situation, make no mistake. We've seen a number of unprecedented moves by all sides. Israel, on the one hand, going after an Iranian diplomatic mission, striking the consulate building, taking out at least 2 senior generals of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps. In response, Iran has launched a wide attack using hundreds of ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, drones targeted at Israel. So we've seen unprecedented measures being taken by all sides. All of the ingredients are in place for the situation to become worse, even though I think Iran intended for the attack to be rather calibrated and measured. It needed to save face without risking wider escalation. To be fair, Iran has chosen a fairly risky course of action because Israel had previously threatened that if Iran were to launch an attack from its own territory, that Israel could respond and retaliate against Iranian soil. Iran could have chosen to respond to the Israeli attack using other means, indirectly through militias that are affiliated with it, or by targeting soft Israeli targets in third countries and so on. But it chose a fairly risky option of launching attacks from its own territory. Now, even though those attacks, I think, were partly signaled and telegraphed by Iran, they were not necessarily intended to cause a lot of casualties, but as I said, were rather meant for Iran to restore its credibility without risking a wider escalation. Things could have gone wrong. Iran could have been the victim of its own success if, say, Israeli or US or British interception efforts weren't as successful, and if Iranian attacks had landed more Israeli casualties, then who knows, we could have been in a different situation. But I think it's also important not to be too self-congratulatory at this stage on either side. This is a protracted conflict. Things could still get worse.
Absolutely. You said that this could be a protracted conflict. Given that the conflict continues in Gaza, how do you see the tensions between Israel and Iran from here on?
That's exactly right. So the ongoing conflict in Gaza has provided Iran with a strategic cover since the beginning of this war, since October 7, to make successes and establish new strategic equilibria. So the Red Sea was obviously the most significant and striking example. Iran, by supporting the Houthi militias in Yemen, has shown itself to be able indirectly, by working with the Houthis, to disrupt maritime shipping in the Red Sea. So that's a strategic gain that Iran has been able to make. It also managed to drive its own narrative, the idea of confronting Israel, that Israel could not be reasoned with, that diplomacy is useless in getting Israel to comply with international law or to change its conduct in the Palestinian context. And so in a sense, Iran had made a number of gains, primarily because of the way Israel has prosecuted the war in a way that is highly atrocious, highly problematic from an international legal perspective. And so I think, in a sense, as this war continues to drag on with no ceasefire in sight, the regional dynamics are intricately connected to what's going on in Gaza.
Right.
In the sense that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu may have been tempted to create this escalation by striking and targeting Iran's diplomatic mission, precisely at the time when he was coming under a lot of domestic and international pressure to change its conduct in Gaza. So in a sense, I think Israel may have been trying to deflect attention away from Gaza, may have been trying to bring the US closer to its side and to mute US criticism, which had been mounting because of Israel's conduct in the war and because of the worsening humanitarian situation. The regional dynamics and the dynamics in Gaza are interconnected.
Just one clarification, Dr. Hasan, as we wrap this up. Israel is yet to take responsibility for that attack, the Iranian embassy in Syria, but some of your points are absolutely important to ponder upon in terms of what happens from here on. Thank you so much, Dr. Hasan, for taking out the time to speak to us. Where does this conflict go depends on which side of the argument you're probably on. If you're on the Iranian side, well, there's already clamor growing that maybe the government needs to do more in terms of building up its entire nuclear arsenal. On the Israeli side, there is enough and more argument that is now building up that they need to do even more as far as their defense system is in place. All right, on that note, let's shift focus and quickly get in responses and reactions that are coming in from around the world. Remember, Middle East is a region where every country gets impacted with tensions soaring here. All countries in the world have been impacted. What has been their reactions? My colleague Parmeshwar Bawa fills us in.
The international community has reacted with alarm after Iran launched explosive drones and fired missiles at Israel in its first direct attack on Israeli territory. An unexpected and for some unwelcome actor played a role in Israel's defense, Jordan, the Arab kingdom next door. Well, Jordan has emerged as an unlikely defender of Israel despite its scathing criticism of the Gaza war and recent anti-Israeli protests. Their prime minister has said any escalation in the region would lead to dangerous paths and said that there was a need to reduce escalation by all parties. The Saudi Ministry of Foreign Affairs issued a statement voicing its concern at the military escalation and calling on all parties to exercise utmost restraint and spare the region and its people from the dangers of war. Meanwhile, Qatar called on all parties to halt escalation, promote calm and exercise maximum restraint. It also urged the international community to take urgent action to diffuse tension and de-escalate the situation in the region. Turkey, meanwhile, does not want further escalation of tension in the region as well. Egypt's Ministry of Foreign Affairs expressed its deep concern at the escalation of hostilities and called for maximum restraint too, and added that Egypt would be in direct contact with all parties to the conflict to try and contain the situation. The President of the United States, meanwhile, has reiterated his promise, ironclad security for Israel, essentially saying, we've got your back. But Joe Biden has warned Mr. Netanyahu that the United States will not take part in a counteroffensive against Iran, an option Netanyahu's war cabinet is set to favor. UK's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has described Iran's actions as reckless. In a statement, he has actually said, Iran has once again demonstrated that it is intending on sowing chaos in its own backyard. We have a response from Canada, where the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has said his country condemns Iran's airborne attacks, adding that they will stand with Israel. But one must note that following a non-binding vote in the House of Commons in Canada, Canada has decided that they will halt future arms sales to Israel. China is deeply concerned about this escalation. In fact, a Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson said China calls on relevant parties to remain calm and exercise restraint to avoid further escalation in the region, in response to a question about Iran's strikes, also adding that this round of tensions is a spillover from the Gaza conflict, and quelling that conflict is actually a top priority. We have a reaction from the European Union. A top diplomat has said, and I quote, "The EU has strongly condemned the unacceptable Iranian attack against Israel, adding that this is an unprecedented escalation and a grave threat to regional security." Russia, meanwhile, said it was extremely concerned by Iranian strikes and called on all parties to exercise restraint as well. The Russian Foreign Ministry has said, "We have repeatedly warned that numerous unresolved crises in the Middle East, primarily in the Palestinian-Israeli conflict zone, which are often fueled by irresponsible, provocative actions, will lead to an increase in tension." France's foreign minister said Iran is taking a new step in its destabilizing actions and taking the risk of a military escalation, while Germany said it strongly condemned the ongoing attack, which could plunge an entire region into chaos. Iran and its proxies must stop this immediately. This is what the German foreign minister has said on record. Meanwhile, the office of Argentina's president expressed its solidarity and unwavering commitment to Israel in the face of this ongoing attack. Well, Brazil issued a statement saying it follows with grave preoccupation the news that Iranian drones and missiles were sent to Israel. Colombia's president has called the attacks predictable, adding that we are now in the prelude to World War III, precisely when humanity should rebuild its economy towards the rapid goal of decarbonization. In fact, Gustavo Petro said in a statement that the support of the United States in practice for a genocide has ignited the world. Everyone knows how wars start, but no one knows how they end. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez also called for restraint, saying one must at all cost avoid a regional escalation.
For India, which happens to be one of the few countries that has good ties with both Iran and Israel, there is a lot at stake. On one hand, the continuity of its energy supply is at risk, and in the immediate, there is the fate of the 17 Indians that are on board the Israel-linked ship that has been seized by Iran. Latest updates suggest that government officials have been allowed to meet the 17 Indians that are on board the MSC cargo ship that was seized in the Strait of Hormuz. Let's listen in to some important voices coming in from the government, including the Minister of External Affairs, on the next course of action.
Yesterday night, I spoke to my Iranian counterpart. I pressed him. I said, there are 17 crew members from India, and it is, we are making the point to the Iranian government that these people should be released, that they should not be detained. I understand, and after that there have been some follow-up conversations between our embassy and the Iranian authorities. I'm getting some reports, but for me, until first point is, I want our embassy people to actually go there and meet these people. That is when that will be my first point of satisfaction. Secondly, I would like, I would absolutely press for these people to come back to India as quickly as we can.
और जब दुनिया में इतना प्रकार के भांति भांति प्रकार के तनाव चलते हो, तूफान चलते हो, तब ऐसे समय में भारत में एक मजबूत, पूर्ण बहुमत वाली स्थिर सरकार की आवश्यकता अनेक गुना बढ़ जाती है। ऐसी सरकार जो देश को आर्थिक रूप से भी समृद्ध बनाए, ऐसी सरकार जो देश को विकसित भारत की तरफ तेज गति से ले जाए, और भाजपा इसके लिए संकल्पबद्ध है।
No, look, there is an anxiety factor, very definitely. Any uncertainty in the global situation where there is a real possibility of exacerbation of tension. Here it's a little more than that. Earlier in the Red Sea, the Houthis were attacking merchant shipping. Today, two state actors are operating, Iran and Israel. We are concerned. We are watching the situation very carefully. And we are acutely conscious of what impact this can have on fuel prices, because there may be longer routes to take, there may be insurance rates higher. But let me tell you, Modi's India is capable of navigating all this.
All right, to discuss this in greater detail, my colleague Mohammad Ghazali joins us live on this. Now, the fact is that India stands to get impacted on several counts. As the minister said, the immediate could be the energy prices and, of course, the fate of the 17 Indians on board the cargo ship. What is the sense that we are getting in terms of the government's back-channel talks that are on? Because India has good relations with both the countries that are right now seeing heightened tensions.
See, if you see the communication which has been issued by the foreign ministry here in India, the language itself suggests that whether it was the attack on the Iranian consulate in Syria or later this hijacking of ship, the word seized have been used there, and there has been no condemnation as far as the Iran or IRGC hijacking that ship in the waters off the coast of UAE was reported. So all this while, India has been very guarded in its approach when it comes to Iran and Israel, because they both are hostile to each other, but these two countries share good rapport with India. They have good diplomatic relations with India. As far as Iran is concerned, India happened to be the second largest importer of their oil till global sanctions was posed on Iran, and even before that, India had cultural ties with Iran. As far as Israel is concerned, India has diplomatic, defense and technology sort of arrangement with them. So as far as this particular case is concerned, where the 17 crew members have been were on that ship which was seized by Iran, the diplomatic channels are on, and we should not forget that what happened when 6 or 8 ex-Navy officials were convicted in Qatar, and diplomatic channels were pressed back then and they were safely brought back. And Mr. Jaishankar has rightly said that he has been updated that Iran's, his counterpart in Iran, the foreign minister of Iran, has confirmed that Indian authorities there based in Tehran will be allowed to meet those 17 crew members, and they will be safely brought back. But when and how that meeting will happen, that schedule has not been released yet.
All right, Mohammad Ghazali joining us live to fill us in with the possibility of India, of course, working out on those back-channel talks with Iran for the 17 Indians that have been on board that seized cargo ship. Moving on to the other big story that we are tracking, former U.S. President Donald Trump's court trials involving hush money or alleged hush money paid to the adult film star Stormy Daniels is set to begin. This makes him the first American president to be put on trial, an uncharted territory for the country, but also for Trump, who is the de facto Republican nominee for the upcoming elections in November. Now, Trump is accused of arranging a $130,000 payment in the waning days of the 2016 presidential election campaign when buying her silence about an alleged sexual encounter at a hotel in 2006 and falsifying records to cover it up. He's denied any extramarital encounter with the adult film star and has said that the payment was made to stop her from false and extortionist accusations. But remains to be seen where does Trump campaign go from here, given that he is the first U.S. president to face felony charges, first former U.S. president to face felony charges.
Donald Trump is set to become the first former U.S. president to face a criminal trial. as the first trial of the 4 ongoing criminal cases against him begins today. Trump faces 34 felony counts related to a hush money payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels in 2016. So who are the key players in this trial? The first is adult entertainer Stormy Daniels, or Stephanie Clifford, who Trump allegedly paid $130,000 2 weeks before the 2016 US elections to cover up their alleged sexual relationship. Next is Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, who was responsible for paying off multiple people, including Stormy Daniels, on Trump's behalf. Now, he is the prosecution's star witness. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg is the prosecutor in this case, who alleges that while it is not illegal to pay hush money in New York, Trump violated the law by allegedly attempting to cover up the payments. Juan Merchant is the New York judge presiding over Trump's hush money trial. While Trump has accused him of being biased, this judge has previously also presided over the Trump Organization's 2022 criminal trial. Trump has repeatedly branded the charges against him as election interference.
It's a shame what's happening to our country. This is election interference. They are doing things that have never been done in this country before. And I don't know how you can have a trial that's going on right in the middle of an election. Not fair.
Despite being charged, Trump can continue his election campaign for the upcoming US presidential elections, since the US Constitution does not restrict those charged, convicted of a crime, or even serving jail time from running or winning the presidency. With Disha Bagchi, Parmeshwar Bava for NDTV.
This is the first time in American history that a former president has ever faced trial. But before we get to arguments, before we get to testimony, we're going to have several days of jury selection. That's an important part of any criminal case, but it's an especially important part of this case, given Trump's notoriety and the inherent challenges in locating a jury who can neutrally and impartially hear this case.
With that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Global. Thanks so much for watching.